In its quest to provide an open forum for discussion of controversial issues, this station allows hosts and their guests to express themselves without any significant censorship. You are advised that any view expressed by the host or their guest are not necessarily the views of the owners or management of TogiNet Radio, Togi Entertainment, or the Owners Group, Inc.
It's time for Motherhood Talk Radio, the most powerful voice in women's issues today, with Sandra Beck and Christy Holly. Ladies, Motherhood Talk Radio is here to give you a powerful platform by giving you interesting, inspiring, and influential information as you navigate everything from childcare to corporate formation. Motherhood Talk Radio has interviews with best-selling authors, gurus of happiness, and women of interest who every single day make our world a better place for our families. Motherhood Talk Radio, powered by Motherhood Incorporated, is on the air now. Moms, this really is your show. Motherhood Talk Radio. And now, here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and...
Hey mamas, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here live with Christy Holly and Rick Swanson. We have a great show today. We are welcoming Dawna Kennedy, and she is going to talk to us about teens who self-injure, and we're going to make it a little bit of a serious show today because we have a topic that is very popular in the teen community, and we have brought this show to you because of recent events in our town where teens have been self-injuring themselves and even self-injuring to the point where they have ended their own lives. So we would like to offer this show full of information for parents to help so that maybe we can make a difference in somebody's life. Dawna, are you here with us today?
I am.
You are. We have self-injuring. Is that, what does that mean when somebody self-injures themselves?
Typically, kids start out from emotional pain, and they start out putting the really wide rubber bands on their wrists that are tight, and they pull them as far as they can and snap them and create welts. Then they typically progress from there to cutting, whether it's with a paper clip, tack, and eventually to a razor blade. If that stops being enough pain, then they'll go to burning themselves. One of the most common things is to get a Bic lighter and get it real hot and push it to your skin because it leaves like a happy face imprint. So nobody really questions it. It just kind of looks cool, even though the intent was the pain. Or a glue gun, a hot glue gun is another one that kids use a lot.
So now, Dawna and Rick, you're with us today. You have experience with some of these things, Rick, with a group called Young Life. Can you explain what Young Life is and why you're here contributing some of this information today with Dawna?
Sure, no problem. Young Life is an organization. It's an international organization, and it's for high school-age youth. I would say it's partially an after-school program, but it's kind of more than that. It's kind of like there's usually a planned meeting once a week, and they have these big summer camp trips in the summer and the winter when everybody from the group goes on these little, vacation holiday things. But basically what it is, it's a group to kind of hang out with the kids, people that are older, college age or adults, to kind of just take an active role and an interest in some of these kids' lives. And some of the kids have gotten the opportunity to meet and to know. I mean, a lot of them, for such a young age, they have so many, negative things that have happened to them or the trauma that they're going through. It really is heartbreaking. And, some of the things that I have seen, like what Dawna was saying, the burning is one of the most common things that I've seen. And I see the kids, and they're like, usually they kind of blow it off, dismiss it. I'm like, what's with your arm? They're like, oh, no, it's nothing. I'm like, no, seriously, what's on your arm? I've seen the happy face one. They're like, I was just playing with a lighter, and I accidentally burned myself, which is a total lie. You don't just accidentally burn a big smiley face into your arm.
Yeah, but to a parent like me and Christy, who really, we don't have much experience with this, not like, you have, Rick, and Dawna, you have, we probably would buy it and say, oh, well, they're just,
that's cute.
Yeah, it's pretty. Look, I'm in my own tattoo.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a happy face.
How would we, as parents, let's back up a little bit. Why does this stuff happen? Why would somebody want to injure themselves?
Well, I mean, from what I've experienced, a lot of times it's the kids. They're manifesting on the outside, like in a physical way, the way they're feeling on the inside. Some inner turmoil or pain or some emotional distress that they're going through, and this is like their last resort. They don't know what else to do. They feel powerless in their current situation. Like, I can't control my parents. I can't control where I'm living. I can't control where I'm going to school, but I can control what happens to my body. And that's usually what I've seen.
So, do these have to be big life events? Like, somebody who's going through a divorce obviously would look, for signs and things like that. But, Dawna, can you tell me some other things that teens struggle with that might cause them to choose this type of behavior?
A lot of the time, it's physical abuse, it's molestation, it's incest, it's abandonment. A lot of times, the divorce can do it if it's very explosive divorce and there's a complete cutoff from one of the parents, or else, when the parents start fighting and it ends up going to children's services and they get pulled from both parents and put into foster care, or the death of somebody important. Sometimes, it's being involved in a car accident where a teen was driving and someone else in the car was killed, and it's just that grief over losing them as well as the guilt of causing it, and it's just too many emotions. And so in cutting, the endorphins that are released help them to deal with that. So instead of having to be sad or be guilty or feel anything at all, they kind of go to this routine where as soon as they start to feel something, they'll go to some kind of self-injury. And like I said, it usually starts out minor with, just giving themselves welts or that type of thing, and then progresses typically in its most extreme state is with a razor blade. And they'll cut, in places where nobody can readily see, but the point is to release those endorphins and to slowly fade from that mental pain that they don't have any control over to the physical pain which they themselves are controlling.
So they do this to feel better.
It does make them feel better.
So by cutting or, hitting a rubber band or using a paper clip or whatever it is that causes them to injure themselves, when you say endorphins, you're releasing a chemical in your body that helps you feel better, and this is what they're choosing to do to manage their feelings.
Right, because in most cases they don't have anybody they can talk to. They go to great extremes to hide that that's what they're doing. It's not like when someone's suicidal and they'll make hesitation cuts on their wrist where they aren't really planning to commit suicide, but they want somebody to notice and help them. That's where cutters are different. Cutters hide it for any way they can. That's their greatest the worry is that somebody will find out that that's what they're doing and that's how they're coping. And they are afterwards embarrassed and feel guilty about doing it, but at least it's something they did to themselves, not something someone else did to them.
Right, they're not necessarily crazy, because I've heard that explanation, that person's just, they're a little off.
Yeah.
Obviously, to get to that point when you feel you need to cut yourself in order to feel better or to deal with your situation is extreme and is a serious situation, but it's not the same as somebody who's got a severe mental instability.
I totally agree. You can read on, and in some books they'll explore that it's an obsessive compulsive disorder or some bipolar, some different diagnoses. Right. But typically in the teenagers that I know that do it and have done it and I speak with, that it's just a coping mechanism. They have no intention of committing suicide or dying. They just want to get rid of their pain.
And does it happen more to boys, to girls, or is it across the board all the same? Or
it's more typical in teen years. It's more typical in girls. If you were to see somebody cutting in their 20s, 30s, it's more likely to be a boy. But the bottom line is, we can't use that as a guide. As parents, we have to be willing to say, okay, you know what? You've had just a few too many scratches and bruises and accidents lately. I need for you to strip down, and I need to check you before you get in the shower. I love you. I'm concerned about you, and I'm afraid that this is what's going on. And, the only way I can help you is to know what's going on.
But that requires the parent to be present and involved. And you said in one of the cases of abandonment, it doesn't necessarily have to mean they're just abandoned. A parent could be so busy in their personal lives and their work life that they don't even notice what's going on.
That's absolutely a big factor in cutting, because if their parents were paying attention or were involved, and sometimes it's simply not even knowing that cutting is something that teenagers use as a coping mechanism. So lots of times it's a friend finds out, or a counselor or a teacher. They finally open up to somebody, or somebody walks in while they're in the bathroom at school cutting, or if they are feeling that emotional distress and they can't get to their razor or glass or whatever they usually use to cut, they will, I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about how, if they can't get to whatever they need to get to.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Stan. So then they will just irritate existing, new, relatively fresh wounds until they open them up again, or if it's a burn, they'll scratch it because the pain comes back. So they get not quite the same relief that they would get if it were a fresh cut, but they can irritate ones that are just a day or two old into being painful. So that's why they progress to burning, as it's a really easy one to keep the pain going.
To keep the pain going. I hate to cut you off, but we need to go to commercial break. My name is Sandra Beck. I'm the host of Motherhood Talk Radio. Our topic today is teens who self-injure, cutting, burning, doing different sort of self-mutilation. My co-hosts are, as always, Christy Holly and Rick Swanson, doing a great job holding the show together. If you've missed the first segment and would like to pick us up on iTunes, feel free. We're also available on Motherhood Talk Radio and TogiNet.com. We'll come back with more information for parents after the break.
Mom, here's your show, Motherhood Talk Radio, giving you interesting, inspiring, and influential information as you navigate everything from childcare to corporate formation. This is Motherhood Talk Radio, and we'll be right back after these. Homeschooling? Have questions? Get your pen and paper ready. It's the sociable homeschooler, Vivian McNinney. Fridays at 5, 4 Central on TogiNet.com. After a handsome blue-eyed Texan fell in love with Vivian at the Victoria Station in London, she found herself at DFW Airport with a tiny suitcase and a snazzy little duffel bag. Well, 25 years later, she is now happily married to that blue-eyed cowboy. They have 4 grown children, ages 24 to 18, who became willing guinea pigs when she unwittingly stumbled upon the world of homeschooling. Wildflower Academy flourished for 15 years. They survived and thrived, and you can too. Vivian will be covering a wide range of issues that face homeschoolers. What do you do with kids in the summer? How to set up your one-room schoolhouse? How obedience is paramount? And what to do with those snakes? Plus, you'll be sharing ideas and insights that she gleaned from other homeschoolers. So join us for an engaging hour with the sociable homeschooler, Vivian McNinney. Friday afternoons at 5, 4 Central on TogiNet.com. Everyday Autism Miracles with Shannon Penrod. Friday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Life after an autism spectrum diagnosis doesn't have to be difficult. It can be joyful, happy, and filled with hope. Join Shannon Penrod, author, speaker, coach, and mom of a 6-year-old recovering from autism, for this inspirational hour of hope. She's even authored a series of children's autism books with her son, Jim. For more information about the books, Shannon, and Everyday Autism Miracles, go to her website, shannonpenrod.com. From there, you can also get to her other websites, blogs, and connections. On Everyday Autism Miracles, you'll hear stories from parents whose children have made miraculous strides. You'll also get the inside dish on therapies, treatments, supplements, and how to get funding to help you afford them. Miracles abound in the autism community, so tune in for Everyday Autism Miracles to listen, share, laugh, and surround yourself with hope. Everyday Autism Miracles with Shannon Penrod. Friday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Motherhood Talk Radio, the most powerful voice in women's issues. For more information, check out the website, motherhoodtalkradio.com. Now, let's get back to the show with your hosts, Sandra Beck and Christy Holly.
Hey, mamas, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Christy Holly and Rick Swanson today, and we are toning the level of our show down today. We're covering a very serious topic. We're covering teens who self-mutilate and injure. This can take the form of cutting. It can take the form of hair pulling. It can pull your own hair. It can take the form of... You're here, Christy.
Gigglemania, yeah.
Make it through one segment without giggling, but it is a very serious subject, and our guest today is Dawna Kennedy, who has a lot of knowledge in this area and is willing to share it. Christy, you had a really good question at the break about the pain that results from the self-injuring.
Well, what I was wondering is if, like, that pain that they're causing themselves, if that becomes like addictive, like if they're addicted to that pain, like once they start doing it, like that pain feels good for some reason. I was wondering, does that happen, or am I way off?
I don't think that the pain is addicting. I think that the relief, that they know they can always go back to that for the relief from their emotional pain, is a component. But I don't think that it is addictive, because as soon as they get counseling, they get somebody to help them start dealing with the issue that started all of it, they can immediately quit cutting or whatever self-harm they're doing. So I wouldn't think that I wouldn't consider it addictive, only because they can stop on a dime. It's not something they have to continue to deal with forever.
Or what about, does it become like a habit after they've been doing it so long? It just like looking at it going like, oh, I'd like to, reopen that, or I don't know. I'm sorry that didn't sound nice. I don't know anything about this topic, and I have a little girl who will be a teenager in no time, and these are things that I will always keep in my mind and keep watch over her and my, any little girls that I know. So this is, you just need to know the facts, man.
Yeah, and that's honestly my hope here, is that young parents, new parents, parents that haven't had teenagers, parents who have maybe been going through a divorce or, out of work and kind of focused on other things, will maybe hear something today that will make them say, oh, I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. I never really thought about that, because us as grown adults, aren't as likely to choose that as a coping mechanism.
Or you put it in the category of stupid things your kids do, like setting your chest hair on fire, or, I thought it was cool to, set off a firecracker in my hand. Wonder what happens when I do that. I'm like, oh, it hurts,
But that's, Dawna, you were saying that earlier. There is also a curiosity component to it. I don't think every single case or every single person starts, cutting or burning just because, I'm going through all these terrible things in my life. Sometimes you may be like, well, my buddy does it. I don't know why he does it. What's it all about? Let me see. Right?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Usually, it's a friend. You find out that they're cutting, or they tell you they're self-injuring, and afterwards you're like, okay, but why? I don't get it. And so a lot of times, kids, teenagers, usually it's more in junior high that they just curiosity. Oh, she's doing it. What the heck? What's she getting out of it?
At that age group, there's a lot of stuff you just do. Well, everybody's doing it, so that can be said for a lot of things.
Yeah, and in high school.
When did all of this start? Because I have never seen, I'm 40 years old, and, in my age group or in any of my, junior high classes, or I've never seen or heard anything like this in my life. The only thing, we used to do is Indian burns on our wrists. Someone would, twist your arm and get an Indian burn, or there'd be an eraser on your wrist and erase it really hard. So, and it'd leave a really ugly mark, and it hurts. Or on the back of your hand.
Yeah, but that was more in who's tougher.
And that was fun.
Who can last longest, who can get the reddest burn.
Exactly. So I'm like wondering, when did this start happening, and like who started it and why?
There's a lot of debate about that, and a lot of books you read and people you talk to will tell you that it goes back, it's a centuries-old tradition where it was a rite of passage, where, the scar represented coming of age or becoming, old enough to hunt in your tribe. And there are a lot of different self-mutilation things that have happened over the years. There are tribes that bind their feet so that they never grow. There are tribes that put rings around
their
neck
rings on and make their necks really long.
Yeah. So, there are people who would argue that it really is becoming a cultural thing with tattoos, scarifications, gauging, all of those types of behaviors that people are engaging in now.
Are those all in the same family as like getting a tattoo or scarification or putting in like those posts in your ears? Like I see the guys putting the posts in their ears and stretching their earlobes out. Is that a fashion statement, or is that a symptom of something else going on? How do you know?
I mean, if you're asking me my opinion, because on that's all I really have for you, is that those are cultural, trendy things that are going on right now, and we are kind of going back to, because it used to happen centuries ago, and now we're back around to doing it. But when people do that, it's a self-expression. It's to let the world know who they are, or their tattoos have meaning, or their gauging is to look a certain way or be part of a crowd, or... To me, that's entirely different, because this type of self-mutilation is always connected with emotional pain and trauma.
And you said it's private. Like, that's the one thing that came across for me is, like, when I look at, people today putting, their tats certain places or piercing their faces or doing things like that, it's very public. It's very out there for everybody. But what I'm understanding, if I'm understanding correctly, Dawna, these things, the people or kids who do this type of behavior to cope, they don't want people to know. They hide it. It's not really a form of outward expression.
No, it is a very private thing. It's something that they fear sharing with somebody else will take the relief away. They'll get less relief if somebody else knows about it, or if somebody else knows about it, then they'll have to tell the truth about being molested or being raped or whatever it was that started them to doing it. So this is very secretive to let, and they cut in places where, if you just saw them in a bathing suit, even you wouldn't know. They cut on their stomach, low below a bikini line. They'll cut, under where your bra would be, the very inside of the leg. That their intent is to try it. And, certainly they won't wear a bathing suit. They'll always wear shorts, and it'll be real high up on the thigh. So that's why you said a parent should ask their teen, at some point to say, okay, I love you, I need to check your body, you need to strip down. It's because they do put it in places. When I think of like people cutting, I think of the movies where it's like, lines down your arm. Well, that's pretty obvious to everybody. But in this case, you're telling me that it's places where they don't want to be seen. And is it because dealing with the physical pain, when we've all had physical pain is so much easier to deal with than emotional pain. The emotional pain just lurks around. It comes out at weird times. So is this like a thing that helps take your mind off the situation? It absolutely dissolves the emotional pain into a physical pain, and the physical pain is something you can deal with because your body has a natural response to that. It sets off your endorphins, which releases serotonin, which gives you that kind of euphoric, exciting feeling, as if, guys go jump off cliffs into the lake and get their adrenaline there, or, riding their bikes down mountains, their mountain bikes on these dangerous paths and stuff. People gamble for the adrenaline rush, the excitement, the feel after, and it's the same kind of feel that they get, where just emotional pain, what can you do to get your body to release endorphins? I mean, there are definitely positive ways to deal with that, and positive ways that kids can be taught. But if left to their own devices, right now, culturally, and they're probably going to know somebody or have seen somebody or heard about cutting and try it as a first course of help, like self-help.
Right, and it works.
It works.
Because if it wasn't as popular,
to deal with physical pain. Mm-hmm. It works.
It works. And so people can cut. You said they can cut themselves, like with glass or with staples or paper clips or any real sharp objects. I know you said something about, like, pulling hair out, burning. Is there anything else we're missing before we're a couple minutes before break? And when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about what we can do with these situations.
Those are the most common ones that you're going to see. And you may just start finding razor blades, like the flat razor blades out of a man's razor, because they're very cheap to buy. Anybody can buy them. They can have a clean razor all the time, and they're pretty easy to conceal. Like if they need to take them to school, because they need to have that release ready at any time. So they'll keep a razor and some Band-Aids in their backpack, and they'll keep one in their bedroom and maybe their locker at school or different places. So those are the most common ways of doing it, and the razor becomes the one of choice because they don't get the infections. They can keep them cleaner, and they're just so easy to get a hold of. And the little scrapes that you would get from a paper clip or a safety pin don't produce enough pain. Your body builds up a little bit of a tolerance, so they go to something more painful or something.
Okay, Dawn, I need to cut you off. We're going to go to commercial break. My name is Sandra Beck. I'm the host of Motherhood Talk Radio, along with Christy Holly and Rick Swanson. Our topic today is cutting, teens who self-mutilate and self-injure. We talked about why people cut. We've talked about some of the things parents for. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about some solutions. What can parents do? And if there's any teens listening today, what are some healthy alternatives can do to cope with this problem?
Mom, here's your show, Motherhood Talk Radio, giving you interesting, inspiring, and influential information as you navigate everything from childcare to corporate formation. This is Motherhood Talk Radio, and we'll be right back after these. The Trick to Getting Published with your host, Florence Blake. Friday nights at 9, 8 Central on TogiNet.com. Flo has seen it, done it, and now can share from her experiences as a newspaper staff reporter, feature writer, freelance editor, and college writing instructor. And now Flo has authored a system whereby her students enjoy a 90% success rate in attaining publication of their manuscripts for the first time. In just 4 years, she has over 800 of her own articles published in national magazines, newspapers, and anthologies. Author of several books, including the powerful memoir, The Sicilian Nobleman's Daughter, Florence has advised and edited professors, deans, PhDs, and hundreds of students' writings before submission. And now it's your turn. Join us Friday nights with your questions. Most of Flo's students say they've learned much and thoroughly enjoyed the journey. It's The Trick to Getting Published with your host, Flo Blake. Friday nights at 9, 8 Central on TogiNet.com. If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Motherhood Talk Radio, the most powerful voice in women's issues. For more information, check out the website, motherhoodtalkradio.com. Now, let's get back to the show with your hosts, Sandra Beck and Christy Holly.
Hey, mamas, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Christy Holly and Rick Swanson today, and we have a very serious topic that we're talking about. We're talking about teens who self-mutilate and cut. They can also burn. They can pull their hair out, all different ways to manage their emotional pain. Our guest today is Dawna Kennedy, who has a lot of helpful information to share. She's also a mother of 6. Who has successfully raised 6 children, so she's got a lot of good parenting insight as well. But before we go back to Dawna, I want to talk to Rick and Christy today about coping mechanisms, like, what do we see ourselves and our children? Rick, you don't have kids, so you'll just have to be the child. But you can talk about your little brothers and sisters, because nothing is sacred on the show. But the different things that we do to cope when we have emotional pain. Christy, I'm going to ask you first, at times in your life, as far as back as you can remember, what are some of the things that you do or have done to cope with emotional pain?
Well, I've done a lot of different things to find out what works and what doesn't, but, I've turned to, I've done a lot of exercise and running and boxing. That seemed to work really, really well, the boxing part, hitting a punching bag really hard, sleeping, eating,
all work.
And not eating because I couldn't, not because I didn't want to, but all those things, some are healthy, some are not, I tried it.
Yeah, I can tell you, in the periods of my life that have been very difficult, I found that, like, the martial arts, punching and kicking and yelling, it's like a controlled temper tantrum, really helps me a lot. But there's other things that I've done to cope, too. Sometimes it's reading. I'll take a book and I'll just block out everything I don't want to deal with, or, I see in my kids, like, during the divorce when it was particularly stressful on all of us, I could see some of their coping behaviors come out. I could see my one son get very, very controlling. He was like, Hannah, do this, Matt, Zach, do that, and and control. But then I would also watch him, like, kind of evaporate into, like, a Star Wars video game or something where he could feel powerful and in control, and he'd be gone for hours, and he would just disappear.
Well, probably not. Well, that's good. So I didn't have to think about what was going on, at that moment, give them a break from thinking about what was really happening.
And kind of like what I do, like when I'm really stressed out, and Rick, you've seen me do this at the gym. I get on that bike, and I plug my earphones in, and I play the music as loud as I can stand, and I ride like a crazy woman. But, Rick, what do you do? And what have you seen either friends or family do to try to cope with different emotional situations?
Growing up in a family of 6 kids, each one of my siblings does something different, and I can only mainly speak for myself. But, I like to use my brain, but at a certain point when things reach like a boiling point and you just have so much going on in your life, I find out when I do something that really only involves like my gross motor skills, I would go outside. I would do, I got involved in archery as a young teenager. I would do work around the house. I would go running. I would do something very physical, and I would just get lost, in doing that physical activity, just focus on that. And oftentimes I would most of the time actually, I would find that I would feel so much better, because you are, in a certain way, you're controlling something. In other ways, you don't have any control, like all those things that are happening. But I find like when I, get burnt out, and Sandra, I think you see this too, when you get burnt out mentally or emotionally, doing something
mentally,
right, doing something physical, it's great for relieving that stress and that tension.
And I have to say, going to the physical, again, releases endorphins and serotonin, which give you that happy, euphoric feeling. You can exercise in place of taking an antidepressant. If you exercise enough and regularly, they kind of will accomplish the same feat.
Right. Well, like a lot of runners will say, they get that runner's high. Like, there is pain involved. Your legs are aching, they're burning, then they go numb.
Especially in a marathon. Yeah.
Right. Or if you're working out, you get pain, you get really, really sore, but that's like a good pain. Mm-hmm. And all of us, we do look for some sort of release. There's just some people are finding it in an unhealthy, negative way.
And, honestly, we only know what we learn in our family. Right. Typically, if our family teaches us to handle stress and that type of stuff by yelling and screaming, punching, hitting, cutting, or just ignoring it, acting like the problem doesn't exist and nobody talks about it, nobody has a release for things, then what are the kids going to do with it? So as parents, I guess we need to be more of an example. And if we're going to go running because we're emotionally upset, say to our kids, you know what, I think I'm going to go for a run now because I am just so upset and have so many things on my mind. I need to get some exercise to help me clear my brain. Maybe start teaching them at a younger age that these are the things we do when we're upset, when we have problems, when we have things on our mind we can't figure out. Verbalize that as opposed to, okay, I'll be back in a little bit. And you're going to do that, but you don't express it to your children.
So it's a learned response, or it's something that can be taught.
Yes.
And you can learn from examples.
Yeah, but parents, typically are thinking, okay, I'm the tough guy, I'm the strong one. Yeah, we're going through a divorce, but I'm going to just
right, and you want to look like you're the perfect parent all the time. And I've had this conversation with my parents, and more recently when I, become an adult, and I talk to them more as like my friend, not so much as like, okay, I'm telling you what to do, son. And then they would tell me things like, oh, I totally screwed that up when I was your age, or I did that and I failed terribly, and all these things they start sharing. I'm like, why didn't you share it with me when I was like having some of those issues, or I was feeling some of these feelings? They're like, well, we didn't want to look bad and look like we were failing you. I'm like, no, but it would have been something I could have been like, oh, you guys deal with that too.
Yeah. Another part of that really is a concern to me is that as advanced as we are, as commonplace as therapy and going to a therapist or a counselor or a group is readily available as that is, we still as a society have such a stigma against saying, oh, yeah, I go to counseling. Oh, yeah, when I got stuff I can't deal with, I go to counseling. We just kind of keep an open-door thing. Yeah, if anybody in the family's got a problem, they say, you know what, you and I need to go see Dr. So-and-so. And that teaches them from a very young age that that's a viable avenue. That's a positive way to cope. And there's really nothing wrong with it because everybody in the family does it. That's just how we deal with problems. And that doesn't leave them wondering what to do with their emotions. That teaches them what to do with their emotions.
Well, and I think that's, teaching, what to do with your emotions is so important because when I think of, the shows and all the different stuff we've talked about on the air, from eating disorders to, different behaviors that we do, teaching our kids, we all have emotions and we're all going to go through hard times. It's what you do with those emotions that affect kind of the outcome in a lot of the things that we do. If we have problems and we choose to eat or we choose to self-mutilate, we choose to do a lot of things, we can make our lives a lot harder than it would be if we just had the tools. And that's what I love about the shows like today is that we talk about tools that we can give our kids and give ourselves before it gets to the point where we're causing ourselves more harm.
Well, there are quite a few things that can be done, quite a few resources. I think the number one most important thing would be that if you find out that that's what's going on with your child or one of their friends, or they come to you, is to just be open to it, to not really, and ask them questions, ask them why, ask them, what it feels like when they do it, what they feel like after. And, there are some great books out there that really will help you to do that. There's a book called Stopping the Pain that actually has a letter in the book where it's just to fill in the blanks for a child or, your kids to fill in that I need your help, dear mom and dad, I need your help because when I get upset, I do this. It's all laid out. They just have to fill in 3 simple blanks. And the most important part of engaging them and starting towards solving the problem and getting help for them is going to be the parental reaction. If you're open to it and, obviously you're going to be a little bit surprised, that's natural, but to engage them in the conversation and show some true emotion when you're talking to them about it instead of being angry and outraged or disgusted or disappointed, just being, wow, I'm so sorry, honey, that's how you had to deal with your pain. And just be very real in your conversation with them.
Well, and I think, what's most important that we recognize is that these behaviors are a teen's way of trying to cope with a problem. And so if we just take it as a sign that there is a problem as opposed to like reacting harshly, flipping out, thinking, there's, the world is ending, or making the kid feel stupid, or, that their choice was poor, if we can just take it as, look, this is a sign that we need to figure something out together, that might be a better method than not, and that this is just the teen's way of choosing to handle a situation, and we have lots of choices in our lives that we can make. We can choose to do other things, and that's one of the things when we come back from the next segment, Dawna and Rick and Christy, we're going to talk about some alternatives that a teen could do, or some alternatives that a parent could help a teen do to express what's going on with them emotionally so we can give them a chance. Dawna, can you read? We've got a couple of books that we'd like to recommend today. One of these is made by the Facts book of Teen Life, Frequently Asked Questions About Self-Mutilation and Cutting. It's written by Jonas Pomer, and we talked about Stopping the Pain by Lawrence E. Shapiro. Are there any other books, quickly, we're going to go to break, that come to mind?
There's another one that's Cutting and Self-Harm. That's very interesting, and it tells some of the famous people who have dealt with self-injury, and sometimes for teens to relate with that famous people do it helps to give them a different perspective.
Great. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about some different techniques that we can use with our tunes. Our guest today is Dawna Kennedy. Our topic is self-mutilating and cutting. My name is Sandra Beck of Motherhood Talk Radio, and we'll catch you back with more helpful information after the break.
Mom, here's your show, Motherhood Talk Radio, giving you interesting, inspiring, and influential information as you navigate everything from childcare to corporate formation. This is Motherhood Talk Radio, and we'll be right back after these. Get ready for the Not So Soccer Mom, Tuesday afternoons at 1 Eastern, noon Central, on TogiNet with Jill Hickey. You name it, from politics to pop culture to Jill's search for the perfect bronzer and chicken salad. The Not So Soccer Mom will weigh in on it all. The sentence, "I have no opinion about that," is one that Jill has never uttered. In the early 90s, Jill finally decided to put her thoughts, opinions, mom advice, love of pop culture, hummus, and Starbucks, working out, cosmetic shopping, and politics into an actual website, and thus NotSoSoccerMom.com was born. Shortly after her fourth child, a boy, Jerome, now she's really got tons of topics to share with you. This is Laugh Out Loud Funny, and we're not kidding. What's a loud Nebraska girl who lived in Little Rock for many years and now is up in the Northeast doing? Chronicling her opinions on everything. The wheels aren't off yet, but it's close. It's the Not So Soccer Mom. with Jill Hickey. Tuesday afternoons at 1 Eastern, noon Central on TogiNet.com. Want to be challenged in a powerful way to leap beyond what you think is possible? Then join us Mondays for the Leah Jensen Show. Every Monday at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com with Leah Jensen. Listen live as life coach Leah uses her coaching skills to give you the tools you need to take action and create momentum. You are encouraged to call in and share your greatest fears, challenges, and obstacles. And then listen as Leah obliterates those barriers to success. For more on Leah and the show, check out her website, leahjansen.com. That's Leah, LeahJantzen.com. Spend 1 hour with Leah, and you'll be captivated by her energy, enthusiasm, and magnetism. You'll quickly become addicted to her positive attitude and make it happen mentality. Ready for a life-changing, mood-altering show? Then get ready for Leah Jensen and listen live to The Leah Jensen Show every Monday morning at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Motherhood Talk Radio, the most powerful voice in women's issues. For more information, check out the website, motherhoodtalkradio.com. Now, let's get back to the show with your hosts, Sandra Beck and Christy Holly.
Hey, mamas, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Christy Holly and Rick Swanson. Our guest today is Dawna Kennedy, and we are talking about teens who cut. There's a couple different forms of pain that teens will use to help alleviate their emotional pain. It can include burning themselves. It can include pulling their own hair out. It can include cutting. And Dawna, did you say bruising? Was there? I saw something on the paperwork that can they bruise themselves too? Is that part of it?
I read instances of it. I've never seen, in my line of work, I've never seen instances of it, and I've never known anybody personally. But, I would assume that anything, if your kid's always got a bruise, you would have to question it.
Yeah, and like you said, it's in places that people normally wouldn't see. It's not something that they're doing, as a decorative or a cultural thing for presentation. These are secretive. They don't want to be found out. So my question then is, what do you do? Christy and I were talking about this at the break. We were like, wow, if it was our kids, we'd probably freak out and we wouldn't know what to do, which is why we're doing this show. But what happens when it's your own kid, or what if it's like your kid's best friend?
Well, if it's your kid's best friend and your kid is willing to come to you and talk about it, then you're doing something right. So maybe you're the person that they need to bring their friend to talk to. Because if they know that they can tell you what's going on and you're not going to flip out or yell or be judgmental, then they're more likely to tell their friend, you know what, my mom's really cool about this. She won't get mad. She can help us come up with some ideas. She'll go with you to help you talk to your parents, whatever you need. But, if you've laid that groundwork so that your kids are comfortable in coming to you with things and they know you're not going to already be making the problem worse as opposed to helping it, then that's a great avenue.
So what are some things that what would a parent do? Like, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm your kid, and I come and say, you know what, my friend Christy has been cutting herself, and she doesn't feel comfortable talking to her parents, and maybe the parents are in a financial situation where they're probably not going to be able to afford a lot of therapy. What are some things that a parent could do? And I realize, you're not a licensed practicing psychiatrist or anything. This is just your opinion and your advice as one parent to another. What can they do?
I would encourage my children to just openly talk to them about it. Ask them, why do you cut? How often do you cut? How much does it bleed when you cut? Ask all the curious questions that they have, because at least that way they're engaging and they're concerned and they're not being judgmental. They're being curious. They're being a friend. They're just saying, okay, I'm here for you, but I don't get it. Can you help me to understand? Tell me why. Tell me What do you use? Where do you do it?
And you know what? That actually, Dawna, is very key. Not just when it comes to mutilation and cutting, but when you're dealing with young people, or especially, I guess, people even in general, the time to just take a general interest and just ask them about them. There's a lot of times we want to go, this is what you're doing, this is wrong, yada, 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 and we're talking at them. And instead of them opening up and sharing and expressing some of the things that they're feeling, what it's like they're going through, they clam up more. And they're like, okay, you're just going to be like my parents. You're going to be like this person. This person already told me it was wrong. I already know this.
Yeah, in my heart I know this because I'm mad at myself after I do it every time.
Right, so you do end up doing more harm than good by just coming at them and just hitting them with the book, just like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would tell my son, my daughter, the two that still live at home, why don't you ask them how they'd feel about talking to me about it? Just tell them, my mom's not going to get mad. She's not going to tell your parents. She's just going to help you try and figure out some healthy ways to deal with it. Something, maybe she can help you come up with some ideas to not do it. And, and the more educated you make your own kids on these topics that you know they know about. You can't be in junior high and high school and not know about these things right now. And if you think that your kids don't, then that's already the beginning of the problem.
You're lying to yourself.
Yeah. Anytime you say, oh, no, not my kid, you can bet it's going to be your kid. But, if they can express any kind of understanding or reassure them that, there's help, there's something we can do. It doesn't have to be this way. If they can encourage them to share some of their emotions or their anger or their pain, even just spending time with them doing enjoyable things. Even, let's go for a walk, something they enjoy that keeps them out and involved, as opposed to locked up in their room where they have more time to think and kind of get off track. Any resources, the school counselors have a lot of great resources. I guess the most important thing is don't judge them in any way. If you don't judge them, tell your kids don't judge them. Don't. A lot of parents would say, oh, well, then you can't be friends with them because that's the bad crowd. When that's not really the case at all. What they really need is for somebody to engage them in care and talk to them. And
Dawna, sorry. What would the school's role be in this if one of the teachers saw that, the marks on somebody's arm? Would that teacher be obligated to report that to someone? Or how is that? I mean, because whenever they see markings, bruises or stuff that they're suspicious of, I know that they have to report that to somebody. Is this different? Do you know what they have to do, what the procedure is when the schools and the teachers see something like this?
I know that as a mandated reporter, you have to report it if somebody else is doing it to them, if it's abuse. And I really don't know. I mean, I don't even know that if they're caught, using drugs, obviously the parents are notified because that's against school policy. But
and against the law, too, most of the time.
And it would be against the law to bring a razor
cutting
to school
isn't really
as well.
Against.
Right?
Pardon me?
I mean, you said that some of them could bring razors to school with their Band-Aids, and I don't think that, which I don't know for sure, but I don't think that that's, allowed in the school. I just wondering, what would happen in that situation? Who would be notified? What kind of help would they get? I guess I don't know. Correct?
As far as bringing in an item that would be labeled contraband, whether it's drugs or the paraphernalia or razor blades, some schools do have some kind of screening process when you come into school, but from what you've seen and you look in the media, it's not really that successful. Especially a razor blade, you can stick that underneath your shoe, in your sock. In your bra. You can hide. If they're bent on doing it, they're going to do it. And I don't think you're really going to catch them so much having that stuff.
I'm just wondering, what happens when they do get caught? How are they taken care of? As opposed to not being punished, but how are they What resources are available for somebody? Yeah, are they like suspended from school so they can get help? Are they, nurtured, or are they punished for it?
I have not seen them suspended. I knew one kid in particular, and he had suicidal tendencies. And the first day I'd asked, "Had you talked to anybody at the school? Have you spoken with your teacher or a counselor?" And he's like, "Yes, yes, yes, and yes." And at a certain point, he told me too, the counselor had already written him off that, oh, he's just being reactionary, he's looking for attention. So they met him once or twice and like, we don't want to deal with it. So they don't seem to do a whole lot. I would agree with Dawna. What can you really do when it's like, oh, you're doing it to yourself? It's not against the law.
It's not so much that they're going to just walk into the counselor's office and say, okay, I was molested and now I'm cutting. But they will start going and building a relationship and talking about other things and just kind of getting to the point where they're like, oh, there is an adult that really cares about me.
Or they feel
there is somebody that's in my corner. There is somebody that could help me, whether it's a teacher, a counselor. I think it's more the rapport and the feeling like somebody cares about me than it is how's the counselor going to fix it. Because they probably aren't going to self-disclose the real thing. They're going to
right, which is why you're talking about having that open dialogue, not freaking out, giving them a safe place to go where they can talk. Because I think when they go internal like this is a very internal process. It might show up externally on their body, but they're choosing to not engage. They're choosing to deal with it on their own. And that's where it becomes dicey in trying to get somebody to talk about what's going on with them. Because when it's painful like that, they're not going to run around. If they're hiding it, they're probably not going to seek out a lot of help.
Yeah, their circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's just them. Because they don't want anyone to see them or ask a question or say something that might set the emotions off.
So would you say also one of the signs, I know we talked about it earlier, are these people usually very introverted and they're very closed off from other people, or does it also show up in people that are very outgoing, have a big group of friends?
It could go either way. It's the same with sexual assault. Somebody's been molested or raped. They either don't want anything to do with their sexuality, or they go the other way where they're hypersexual.
Gotcha.
So I don't know that there's like a set standard for.
Well, Dawn, I want to thank you for being our guest today. It's a very difficult topic to talk about, and it's a very difficult topic for the teens that are going through it and the parents that are experiencing this and the friends. I'm thankful for you today because you gave us a lot of helpful information. You've given us a lot of insight into teens who do cut and self-mutilate. Rick, I want to thank you also for your input. Christy and I, both as young parents of young children, we're thankful for this information because we know what to look for, and you've given us some tools. For those of you who missed the earlier portions of the show, we've also gone over some different books that are helpful. We'll put those up on our website. My name is Sandra Beck. I am the host of Motherhood Talk Radio, along with Christy Holly and Rick Swanson. Our guest today has been Dawna Kennedy. And when we come back next week, we will have another great show.
Thank you for being a part of Motherhood Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Christy Holly on TogiNet.com. Join us every Tuesday as